maybe start from something that we at Belgrade Centre for Security Policy have been claiming for quite a while now, and this is the fact that Russia's influence or power in the Western Balkans has been overestimated to some extent. And then to pick up on what Mikhailo mentioned, and I think two things are important. It is the fact that Russia is now suffering a strategic defeat, or has already suffered strategic defeat in Ukraine. And with these internal challenges that are taking place in terms of political competition. Sorry, I think somebody's, no, sorry. I was hearing some other people and with these internal challenges, I would say that now most of the Russian resources have been taken up with the Russian war in Ukraine, and also with countering these domestic challenges. So to continue on my initial claim is now, it seems that it is true now that Russia would already having its let's say leverage in the Balkans limited. Now it's even more so limited. So what we expect to see in the upcoming period is not some active measures by Russia that to destabilize or undermine, but more in line with the limited resources it has, is to use the potential instabilities in the region, and everybody knows we have plenty of those. Or, and this is a crucial point, to prevent some kind of positive change happening. And this is nothing new. It has already been in line with the Russian policy in the Western Balkans before. We've seen what happened in North Macedonia in some very critical junctures or moments where, for example, the Macedonian government was being changed a couple of years ago. Another line of argumentation that this is what we can expect in the region is the fact that now with Putin becoming increasingly isolated, with Russia being declared a terrorist state by the European Union. So first thing will be that it is dangerous, because if Russian military is bombing civilian infrastructure in Ukraine, this means all tools are available and they would refrain from nothing. But this could happen only in these critical moments that I mentioned. And one of those could be, for example, the reaching of this Serbia-Kosovo agreement that I will talk a bit more later. But another argument that the Russian policy would not change much when it comes to the Western Balkans, and the policy is to try to use this leverage to mostly to counter the Western influences. So there is no strategic interest of Russia in the Balkans apart from making troubles to the European Union, to the USA, and to the West as such. So with Putin being increasingly, I would say, afraid and trying not to lose control internally, I would say the Western Balkans being the second or even third tier policy priority within the Russian establishment, I would say that those people in charge of Western Balkan policy would not dare to do or to innovate much of its current approach. So this is another, I would say, argument that we should expect more of the same. And the Russian and their actions here in the Balkans mostly rely, as we all know, on support from local actors that are cooperative. And this is mostly the Serbian government, which is very friendly towards Russia, but also in Republika Srpska and parts of Montenegrin political actors. And Russia, again, mostly relies on some low-cost actions that are, for example, still unwavering support to Serbia on Kosovo issue, or invitations of Dodik to visit Moscow as a part of their elections campaign. But I think it's important to mention that this what appears to be Serbo-Russian warm brotherly embrace. It's not actually the issue. It is a very much interest-based relationship. I explained what is the Russian interest, and the interest of the local political elites is, again, mostly for internal and domestic audiences. That's some kind of a grand scheme of things, but again, mostly especially for Serbia, regarding the balancing against the West. And now maybe to go into bits and pieces in the region, and Serbia, of course, being the most important actor in the region. Unfortunately, we do not expect that Serbia will soon align with the common foreign security policy, and that this is, I mean, with the sanctions regime against Russia. Over the past month, I had the opportunity to meet twice with the Minister of European Integrations of Serbia, and on both occasions, it was clearly stated that we should not expect any. It was framed as alignment in Chapter 31, which is common foreign security policy, but essentially this means sanctions against Russia. But on the other hand, the government does intend to work on other things that are contained within this chapter, which further supports the claim that they will not introduce sanctions. And it was said that Serbia will step up civilian peacekeeping operations and the participations in the EU peacekeeping operations. Serbia also agreed to align its visa policy with that of the EU, which again suggests that they're focusing mostly on other things to gain some kind of a positive assessment from Brussels, but not introduce sanctions. And then obviously the Kosovo-Serbia negotiations, or the Brussels dialogue that we talk about. I think this is a fairly make it or break it moment that we are seeing now. I'm not going to go much into the details about the ongoing instability over the registration of license plates, but with this Franco-German non-paper, which is essentially a proposal for this final comprehensive settlement agreement between Serbia and Kosovo, I would say that now with the external pressure and with the how cards are being dealt currently in the field, we should expect some kind of a first negotiations, and then, as so many people have already mentioned, by spring some kind of an agreement. Obviously, this would be this critical moment that I talked about that Russia could use potentially to destabilize, and we've already seen this during the crisis over registration plates. So after Serbs left the Kosovo institutions in the north of Kosovo, we've heard or read Russian ambassador's statement in Belgrade that this is actually a move inspired by the West to kind of stimulate or help the Albanians take over the north. There were also different interpretations from the other side, but I think what is most important are exactly these moments of that are critical because of this high instability and the potential of small scales conflict to flare up. But I would say that this agreement that Kosovo and Serbia are negotiating, which is still not being made public, but it is based on several sources that I had the opportunity to talk to, or the leaked parts of the documents in the media. This would be something that should potentially be able to set the infrastructure for normalization of relations, to put it in that way. If it's true, what is being talked about is that this would be the model of two Germanys, where there will be no explicit recognition. There will be establishment of association of Serbian municipalities. So it looks like this agreement, if reached, it would provide a framework for a normalized relations between Serbia and Kosovo. And I think this would be the crucial moment for Russia, because this has been one of the main leverages of Russia to exert pressure on Serbia and also cause destabilization in the region. So I would say that this would be one of the moments that we should be looking up to, where Russia could potentially be actively working to prevent the positive change that I mentioned. And then again, between the Kosovo and Serbia, if you follow the news closely, you could see that because of the very problematic position of Serbia that we are criticizing, obviously, with the very unclear stance on the Russian aggression in Ukraine and unclear stance on the sanctions, that the Kosovo side is using it to portray Serbia as a Russian agent, as working against peace. For example, 2 weeks ago, I participated at the Paris Peace Forum. Both Kurti and Osmani were there, equating Serbia equals Russia equals fascism. And then with the position of Russia that is increasingly isolated, I think Serbia's international position in these negotiations is also further weakened. So all of these things suggest that there might have been an environment has been created where there is a possibility to reach a disagreement that we have been expecting since 2014. Just to mention, Serbia, when we opened accession talks with the EU in December 2014, Serbia and the EU adopted this common negotiated position where it stated that Serbia will reach this comprehensive normalization agreement, and it has become an international obligation of Serbia. So this is a very brief assessment of the situation from my side, but I expect that you can also contribute to the discussion, maybe even challenge some of these things that I mentioned, and I'm obviously open to answer any questions. Thank you.